All right, there's my screen. So I'm going to talk about because one of the things that as independent consultants, we have very limited amounts of money to spend on things like professional associations and conferences and things like that. So it's like, how do I decide, which professional associations, which conferences to go to? I hear that one a lot. Like, I don't know which conference I want to go to. So let me see if I can get this to switch slide. There we go. Okay, there's so many professional associations, and I'm sure everybody take a moment here and put into the chat. Let me pull up the chat so I can see it here. Oh, I can't. Can I? Anyways, there it is. Put into the chat, what professional associations do you belong to? Besides AEA. I mean, we always do AEA. Yeah, quite a few, Matt. Minnesota Evaluation Association, yes. CEA, Indiana, CES. Yeah, SCRA, AAEA, APA, ICLS. Oh, there's a new one for me. Learning Sciences. So as you can see, we all, oh yeah, SCRA. NPHIC. SCRA is the Society for Community Research and Action. That is Division 27 of the American Psychological Association. I personally belong to AEA, of course. I belong to SCRA and joined the Canadian Evaluation Society as well. We were supposed to present there, but that one got too. But that one got waylaid. Oh, and SRCD. I used to belong to that, and I used to belong to APHA, and I used to belong to APA. And I am just letting go of another professional association that has to do with developmental psych and family sciences and stuff. So, yeah. So there's all these to belong to. There are so many of them, and it's like, but they all cost money, right? I mean, we have to pay all the dues, and then all of them are like conference, conference, conference. So how do we make this decision? First question to ask is, how does this relate to me? What does this professional association have to do with me? What does it have to do with what I do? That's the first question. Personally, one thing about SCRA, the Society for Community Research and Action, besides being what I have my master's in community psychology and some of my postgraduate work, it has, it's all about social justice. It speaks to my values as a community psychologist. It speaks to, it, and of course, since I've been a member since 1986, there's a lot of friends, a lot of people that I like to stay in touch with. It has a lot. I think I pay like $75, $85 a year, which is really kind of cheap. And so personally, it has a lot to do with my own values. Professionally, AEA is probably the more, one I relate to most, because so much of my work is evaluation. Although I do a lot of coalition work, so again, SCRA has a lot to do with the competencies as a community psychologist are, have a lot to do with me as well. So personally and professionally, I think through, which ones really matter. Interestingly, my PhD is in human development or developmental psychology, which is why I used to belong to SRCD, and I'm currently a member of this other organization because I'm a certified family life educator, whatever that means. I found, though, professionally that I wasn't going to be able to get a lot of use out of that. So, and I'm not finding that I'm getting a lot of that professional association that is relevant to the work I do. So as you can see, it's always a matter of thinking about, same with SRCD, it's very much around developmental psychology. While I keep up with certain things about human development, that's not where I focus my work anymore. So there's not a lot of reason or rationale for me to want to belong and invest there. I can only invest so much time and money. The next thing is, what will I get for my money? Now, when we join professional associations, we get journals. are those journals even, do they even have articles that are interesting and relevant? Because if not, then just because, like with SRCD, just because I'm a developmental psychologist by training, do those journals, do I ever find anything in those journals anymore? I don't work on individual level issues anymore, so because I prefer to work more towards systemic things and stuff. So for me, that's not good. But if you're working, say your evaluation has a lot to do with, you know, children programs for children and stuff like that, then you might want to hang on to SRCD. You might want to read those journal articles because they might be relevant to the content of your work. So that's the thing. It's like, do those journals matter? Is there something in it for my professional involvement? My, you know, is it going to help me somehow improve professionally? Because even though a lot of us are independent consultants and we work for ourselves, we still have a career track. We are still moving up in the world. It may not be new titles, new, you know, promotions and all that, but it can be things like new areas that we get to work in, bigger projects, professional recognition for something we've done, a more well-known business or a business that's known because you're really good at this. So there's a lot of benefit that we can still capitalize on our professional associations and those contacts to move up. The other thing is networking. How can I use this to network? Are there people that I need to network with? Are there, say you're doing a lot of work in public health and you want to network more heavily with public health. I see APHA. That's the place to be. That's the place to go. You want to be engaged with APHA. You want to be reading the journal that you get because you need to keep up with some of the public health literature. That's important. So, but you can also use that to network with other public health focused folks. This is how we learn about requests for proposals coming out. This is how we meet practitioners who may eventually be looking for our services. So thinking through, if I belong to this association and I, you know, start networking and engaging with the people, is there some way that maybe it's just that you like being able to know other public health focused people and talk to them? That's enough. Doesn't have to always be about the money. Information about the field. APHA puts out things like policy briefs. If you're in public health, that can help you keep up with what are the current issues in this field. What are people saying about certain things that are going on? It's a good way to keep current on the information. Because remember, journals are great, but that stuff was done maybe a couple years ago even or longer. So keeping by your professional association and conferences or even just webinars that happen, briefs that come out, you're keeping up with what is going on in my field or in this area now, not being published 2 years later. And of course, there's webinars and things. AEA offers, you know, things like coffee breaks and stuff for free or really low cost to me, e-studies. But there's also other webinars and things like right now. You get to listen to me for whatever that's worth. That, you know, I don't know if that's getting, I guess you're getting your money's worth out considering what you paid for this one. But, you know, there's webinars and things like that too. Okay, so how can you get the most from your memberships? Jean-Luc said it best, engage. By engaging, by being active. There's things like, you know, Matt and Ann and I have all been leaders of our TIGs in AEA. SRCD has sections you can get involved with. APHA, APA has divisions and sections. All of them have places where you can get in there and hold leadership positions. And even if you're early career, I wish Rhonda Williams was here. She's my, one of my favorites. She was like, well, how do I best get something out of AEA? I said, just join a TIG, take on a leadership. Next thing you know, she's like program chair for this TIG. And she's like, yeah, I'm meeting all these people. I'm getting all these opportunities. When you are a TIG leader or take an active role in a TIG or another section or something, you get to know people. You learn about opportunities, you build your reputation, people get to know who you are. You know, it has a lot of benefits. And not only that, but it's kind of fun. I mean, it feels like you're part of the organization instead of just something you're paying dues to. When you pay those professional dues and you're a part of the organization, it doesn't sting as badly. Like, oh, here goes another 75, 85, $100 out of my pocketbook or out of my little budget here. Pocketbook, that's an old folks saying, isn't it? So, yeah, there we go. Matt says Zachary Graves told him that 75% of AEA members who don't renew their membership never connected with a TIG. Connecting with TIGs is like the best way. And you're all connecting now with the independent consulting TIG. Ann and I have had leadership positions in the community psychology TIG and in the nonprofit and foundations TIG, two TIGs where we work in those areas. And we've met people that way, people who are collaborators, people who help us learn more about things. Like we want to work with foundations, we have a chance to make connections with people from foundations and engage more. So, you know, it's a lot to do with your business. But remember, part of your business as an independent consultant is your reputation. I've been engaged with the Society for Community Research and Action for, like I say, since the 80s. And that has given me opportunities to learn. I've served on the executive committee. By serving on their executive committee, which is basically their board of directors for the organization, I've learned a lot about what it's like to be on a board. Well, now working with nonprofits, this is basically being on a nonprofit board. So now I have that experience. I can relate that to when I have to relate to nonprofit boards. So you see, getting involved also helps to build other skills. So getting the most from your membership means engage. Engage and be part of it. Get active. It takes time, yes. But it helps cut down, like right now, we're all gathering here as part of the ICTIG. This helps cut down on some of our, you know, especially for those of us that work solo, sometimes we have to be around other people or talk to other people. We want to get to know other people who do what we do. Ann and I work together on projects now. And sometimes stuff comes up that's like, man, I don't know what to do about this. So now I know Ann really well. I can like, hey, Ann, I have a dilemma. What can I do here? What would you do? And she does the same. So, and we met through AEA. So see, engaging in the organization, both of us met, even though we were both community psychologists, we hadn't met through SCRA, we met through AEA. But that's what I mean. And now we've worked together on things. We've subcontracted each other on things. It's, you know, and it's been fun for our business. Plus, I also have a colleague that I can, oh, okay. And Ann had to mention that I am now the president of the Society for Community Research and Action. I was president-elect, which is, you know, like, I don't know what that's going to mean yet. I may, and she says, be careful what you ask for. And that may turn out to be very true. Who knows? The society is going through some turbulent times right now, and I get to be in the middle of it. But anyway, so that's how to get the most from your professional associations. And then there's conferences. How the heck do I decide which conferences to attend? That's always a big one. Think about that at the beginning of the year. And here's some things. You got to think about that in terms of your return on investment. Is there new information and skills? AEA, I have not missed one in years because every year I learn more about evaluation. I learn new skills. You know, it's like we learn evaluation and everything, but this field evolves. The way we write reports evolves. The way we present information, all of those things are constantly. And I have seen some evaluators locally who do evaluation, but they're still doing them old school ways, like the old time evaluation. You look at their reports; they're very, you know, academic looking. They're the kind that people get and they put them on the shelf. They're not the kind that are useful. And ultimately, in time, some of the times I get calls saying we need a new evaluator. Why? Well, we just feel like we're not getting anything useful. Well, that's because these folks that I know locally, they don't belong to AEA. They don't go to the conferences for AEA. They haven't kept up on how we do reports now. How do we, what are people doing? They don't network with other evaluation professionals even very much. They're just doing what they've always done and leaving it at that. You can't do that. You have to stay fresh. You have to continually evolve. Another reason to go is, are there old friends and colleagues or new friends and colleagues or business contacts to be made? Sometimes you may decide to go to a conference that's really related to the content of your work, because that's another place. Like if you do a lot of work with, say, after school programs, and there's this big after school program national conference, well, you're going to want to go there and make some business contacts. That can help you generate work. So sometimes the conferences have to do more with the content of your work. Other times they have to do more with your discipline. Maybe you trained as in some field like anthropology. So you still go to your anthropology conference, not because anthropology really informs what you're doing, but because you miss all your old classmates from grad school. You miss the content of it because that's what you studied anthropology for a reason, right? So that's something to go for. Your discipline. It's your discipline, and you just like to stay connected to it. Sociology, something like that. Another reason to go is just because it's in a really cool place. Sometimes you want to present. Ann and I were scheduled to present a workshop for the Canadian Evaluation Society in Ottawa, because it was like, you know what? Number one, we have a lot of colleagues that are Canadian that we like to connect with. And so it'd be like, man, we can go and see our Canadian colleagues, and we can go to Ottawa. And the other reason, and talk about expanding views, sometimes international conferences, people outside of our country are doing some really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. And it helps us to learn some new ways to do what we do, because, one of the things we don't want to fall into that trap is, well, we're US or we're Canadian, we're at the front of our field. No, we're not. We're not at all. There are people in Australia, people in Italy, people in all these other places, Africa, doing stuff that's so different from the way we do things. But in many ways, we can draw on that and bring home their methods, their ways of doing, their ways of thinking, and rethink how we do things, and sometimes come up with some great innovative ways to do our work that will be very attractive and even serve our customers better than we do. So that's another reason, is that whole traveling around the US. One of the things is, of course, where the heck am I going to get the money to do this? That's always a big question because it costs money. I do things like, Matt's presenting in Hawaii virtually. Oh, darn. I did get to go to Hawaii once, paid for, and that was really cool. It was for a conference. But so that's one of the things, is find ways that maybe that's another reason to get like known for what you do, because sometimes people will pay your way to come and speak at cool conferences. Or in my case, I was the SCRA representative for the APA programming for the American Psychological Association. So the association had to pay for me to be on site at the conference to arrange and make sure everything happened. So by having that position, I got a free trip to Hawaii because APA met in Hawaii that year. So another reason to engage, right? But also, how do you get the money? Sometimes I do grant reviews. I get on grant review panels. It takes a couple days maybe of stuff, but I consider those grant review panels and those little, they pay maybe $1,000, $1,200. But I do 3 or 4 of those $1,000, $2,000, $1,000 or $2,000 jobs a year, and that gives me enough money to go to a few conferences without touching the rest of my budget. Sometimes it means I work a weekend or two to get all those things read or something, but that's my money to say, well, you know what, I did those, and so now I can go to Ottawa. Or I was going to go to, this year it was going to be Australia. I was going to do a presentation in Australia that got canceled, darn it. And I was going to be able to do that from doing a couple of these little one-off jobs. So think about, find opportunities to do little piddly things, do them on your weekends or whatever, because that is your chance to get out there and travel. That's how those of us that people are like, oh God, she's, got this successful business. She can go all over the world. No, even when I wasn't that successful or busy, I did some of these one-off jobs and I presented in Barcelona because darn it, I was going to Barcelona. So it's not always it's just a matter of prioritizing, saying, I'm going to earn this few $1,000s here doing these little piddly things because I want to go. There we go. Jessica, Alaska and Portugal. Last trips in her university job. We'll just find ways now to get small jobs and be able and say, this money is going to pay because I want to do this. And that's how I've done it. And that's how I've been like, okay, I can spend this money on this because I did this special. Portugal would have been cool. And Alaska is Anne's dream place. So, you've just made Anne really jealous of that. Anyways, so now that I've yacked on about this, let's go for the questions and comments. And let's turn our cameras on, and I'll stop sharing now that you've seen my cute slide.